Well, let's talk about David Haye now. Now, he had been planning to retire next month before his 31st birthday. But, Mike, it now sounds like those plans are on hold.
Yes, he's been talking to German newspapers in the last 10 days or so about the possibility of taking on Vitali Klitschko. It's barely 2.5 months since he was comprehensively outpointed by Vladimir Klitschko in Hamburg, but now he seems as though he wants at least one more go.
And you've been chatting to Vitali Klitschko's manager, Bernd Boente, today.
Who's manager of both the Klitschko brothers. He's had many frustrations in the recent past in dealing with Haye and his trainer, manager, mentor Adam Booth, and he told me about the possibility of Haye versus Klitschko happening anytime soon.
It's definitely a fight that could be made, but so far his management has not contacted me.
So there's been no contact from David Haye's side at all, either before or after the fight between Vitali Klitschko and Adam?
Before the fight, Adam Booth just sent me a text message just asking if Vitali would be real fighting David Haye, and I told him absolutely, but first of all, Vitali has to win the fight against Tomić Adamek, which he did in a fantastic way. And from our side, there are no hurdles, depending on the other side.
Yeah, and you've said in the past that they are among the most difficult people that you've had to deal with in boxing negotiations.
Yeah, there is no doubt about that. This fight would only make sense if the business case is realistic. I mean, we could never work on terms like in the Vladimir fight. So if David Haye is realistic, comes down to earth, and Adam and David would negotiate in a realistic way with our side, then I think the fight is possible. But as said before, I mean, they have to be realistic because he's no champion anymore. This is not a unification. This is Vitali Klitschko giving a challenger an opportunity.
And one of the other issues is that David Haye is not ranked by the WBC. I guess that's an issue that can be overcome.
Yeah, I think that could be overcome. I mean, Vitali is, I think, one of the best champions the WBC ever had, and Jose Suleiman and also Mauricio, his son, really like Vitali and what he did for the WBC inside and outside the ring. So he's one of the most respected champions ever, and I think that should be no problem. And on the other hand, don't forget, I mean, David Haye has a certain reputation, and he had really good fights. He's a good boxer, and there is no doubt that he belongs into the top 5.
Do you think his reputation can be salvaged? I mean, you used to work in radio and television. Is it a fight that can be sold after how he performed against Vladimir, given what he'd said in the build-up?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a fight that can definitely be sold. I don't see a problem there. I'm sure that here in Germany we would have a sold-out arena, and also the TV stations around the world would be interested in this fight. I mean, it's not that David lost by a knockout, a devastating knockout. I mean, he lost each and every round, in my eyes, against Vladimir. But he also knows that against Vitali, it's maybe an even more difficult task. But he has to do more to have another reputation after that fight, because I think his biggest problem is not only the money in this fight, the business case. His biggest problem is his reputation after the last fight against Vladimir, because his reputation is completely gone, his positive reputation in the UK and around the world. And that was his last fight. And, I mean, you know, there is that saying, you're always as good as your last performance. And his last performance was definitely not good.
Some here have raised questions about Vitali's performance last weekend, in particular about when he slipped, and they wonder whether that might be a sign of old injuries resurfacing.
It was no slip or anything. I mean, he stepped on Tomić Adamek's foot and fell to the side. That was it. There was no punch or anything, and he has absolutely no problem. He could fight in November, December again. But as of now, I think his next fight will be beginning of next year, probably in beginning of mid-February.
And could David Haye be the man in the opposite corner?
David Haye could be the man or someone else. But as said before, this could be a very interesting fight. But let's see when Adam Booth will give me a call. And as said before, it's not necessary. It's a possibility. We could find another or other opponents, And but
I'm
sure that this could be a marketable fight.
Have you had negotiations with anybody else since?
No, we have not started yet. I mean, the fight was last Saturday, but there are obviously also other possibilities in Europe or outside of Europe. But as said before, David Haye is one possibility, but it could be other names.
Well, that was the Klitschko's manager, Bernd Boente, speaking to Mike earlier on today. Now, Steve, after Haye looked poor, didn't he, against Vladimir?
Yep.
So do you think the British public are going to buy into him fighting Vitali?
It's not going to be as easy as it was before the Valuev fight, before the Audley Harrison fight, before the John Ruiz fight, and certainly before the Vladimir fight. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult, but they are still going to buy into him. Will 20,000 or 30,000 travel? No. Will 10,000 travel? Probably. Will it sell, I don't know, whatever it's sold on pay-per-view, 700,000? No, but it'll still sell 400,000 or 500,000. Will we cover it on 5 Live and do blanket for about 3 days? Yes, we will. Now, will the news...
Subject to contract.
Will the newspapers send 3 men? No, they'll only send 2 men or two staff reporters. So it will be hard, but it will be. As Bernd said there, he laughed off Mike's suggestion that it would be a difficult sell. He went, no, it will sell. Trust me, that's the bottom line.
Particularly in Germany. I mean, there's been a case where Vitali in 2008 really comprehensively beat the Nigerian Samuel Peter, and a couple of years later they sold the fight massively for Vladimir to do pretty much the same.
And just in a word, how important for David Haye for this to happen? I mean, does he want it to happen or not?
It's crucial to salvage some of his reputation. As time goes by, people will remember that he was an outstanding cruiserweight, not a bad heavyweight, but they've got to forget the toe injury, and he could do with salvaging some of that credibility.